Welcome to RandPaul2010.com. I'm glad you could come today. Hope you're having a good Memorial Day with your family. Memorial Day is a day that we celebrate, but it's not really a celebration so much of war as it's a remembrance, a Memorial Day for those who have died in war. America has never really glorified war. We've gone to war reluctantly, and we have been reluctant warriors, and when we had to go to war, we went to war. One of the things about the 20th century that changed, though, is that we quit declaring war the way the Constitution intended. The Constitution intended it to be difficult to go to war. It intended that the country would be unified and go to war only with reluctance, only when we had to, that we would fight under the American flag, not the United Nations emblem or the United Nations symbols, but for America. We've kind of gone down a slippery slope away from that, where we now go to war willy-nilly without a unified nation. I'm reminded of Pat Buchanan's book when he wrote about World War II and World War I recently, and he talked about the way in World War I, when the discussions were going on, that friends came up to Churchill, and Churchill was gleeful and ecstatic about the prospects of war. World War I turned out to be one of the most horrendous cases of carnage. Millions of soldiers would die in one battle, and Churchill looked upon this as glee, basically gleefully rubbing his hands together at the prospect of war. The Prime Minister at the time was H.H. Asquith, and when he's described in Pat Buchanan's book, he is described as looking ashen and looking struck, and in conversations with both his families and friends that he was deeply troubled by the prospect of war. Now, we do on occasion have to go to war, but that's the kind of leadership you want, someone who's deeply troubled by war and would only go to war as a last resort. I tell people in my speeches that if I'm ever elected to office, the most important vote I will ever cross my desk or that I will ever have to participate in is a declaration of war. I will fight to my utmost to make sure that we always do it in a constitutional way and that there's up or down vote on declaration of war. And I will treat it as if I'm sending my kids to war. I will not treat it lightly. We don't go to war for reasons that are not of great importance, and mostly really the reason to go to war is to defend our country from attack. I don't think we reshape the world in our image. That was sort of Woodrow Wilson's idea, that we are going to make the world safe for democracy. Well, that even ignores the question that we're not a democracy. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. So if we don't even understand the difference between democracy and a constitutional republic, do we really think it's our obligation to be instructing the rest of the world on what freedom is? I think we lead by example. We're the shining light, and we should lead by that example. I hope on this Memorial Day you'll think about the soldiers who did give their life for the shining example of American freedom, and that we work our very best together to try to not have war in the future. Thank you for visiting RandPaul2010.com.